Hey, it's syndicated radio talk show host, author, singer Al Cole, welcoming you to another edition of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Today, we have Johan Gous on the line right now. Boy, I'll tell you, this guy is really into helping people. And I'm going to give him a spotlight interview. He was brought to me by Parchment Global Publishing, one of the great publishing companies out there that brings me guests to people of distinction. And if you've got a book you want to move, Parchment Global Publisher, well, that's your move there. You got to move into their website, parchmentglobalpublishing.com, and move your book that way. Johan is going to be talking about his new book, Witnesses Wanted, Living an Unexpected Adventurous Life. We like that. Now, what is the adventurous life that Johan is talking about? He's really talking about his ministry life, and it's headwayed by his ministry called Hope Builders Ministry. What does that mean, Al? I like hope, but what kind of hope is he giving to people? Well, it comes from a Christian point of view. And we always welcome all points of view on People of Distinction. He does mission work in difficult places, as he says, and usually they're African and maybe Asian places, but particularly Africa, where people are maybe even persecuted for being Christians. All right, so we don't want anybody persecuted in our world. Johan doesn't either, and he's helping out that way with mission work in Africa particularly, and how it can be effective for our human family. We like that scope, and that's what we talk about, how professional work can elevate our human family. So we're going to welcome Johan on the show right now so we can talk about his book, Witnesses Wanted, Living an Unexpected Adventurous Life. It's available on Amazon if you want to order it there. And I want you to run to his website, too, and you can order it there and find out more about his ministry, hbmin.org. So that's H as in hope, B as in builders, and then MIN as in ministry.org. Welcome, Johan, to People of Distinction with Al Cole. It's a pleasure to have you on today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, sir.
Now, you have Hope Builders Ministry, and you're doing wonderful work through the ministry. How long have you been doing that for?
I've been in the mission field for the past 43 years.
Wow, that's a long time. You've got a track record there. And particularly mission work in Africa, South Africa, probably even more particularly. Tell us some of the work that you've done there that relates to your book, Witnesses Wanted, Living an Unexpected Adventurous Life.
Well, it started when I was an electrical engineer, and I designed and built ships. Very few people know that how many ships are built in South Africa. Our ministry work is actually not in South Africa. There are many, many missionaries there. It is into the countries to the north and a little bit to the east of South Africa as such, where I was born and educated. So there was a civil war in Mozambique and in Zimbabwe, and it used to be called Rhodesia, and in other African countries. And one of the situations was that the leadership, people who controlled people, they were seen as controlling people. They had members to their churches, and those were the people that were taken into custody and were influenced. And then the church body was left behind without leaders. And I heard a missionary speak in the city of Durban when I was in the electrical engineering. His name was Brother Andrew of the well-known ministry organization Open Doors with Brother Andrew. And I listened to what this gentleman was saying, and what I was experiencing as a believer and as a churchgoer was totally different to what he was experiencing. And at that stage, I was newly married, and I said to my wife, if that is what faith looks like, that's what I want. And I immediately made the took the first step of becoming a volunteer with Open Doors with Brother Andrew. And that ended, or it started a full-time ministry 3 years later. And the point was I joined Open Doors to work into Mozambique to do to catch up the church body that was left behind without leadership. But we had to be innovative about the way that you reached out to them. Traditional missionary work with a foreign missionary coming in and settling down and staying there wouldn't work because you would just be thrown in jail. So we had to look at a different way of doing it.
Look at that. And the different way helped out so many people over the years. What is that different way that you did it, that you found was so successful, not only for your purposes as a successful missionary, but also you saw the hearts and souls of people light up through your missionary work? What is the really innovative way that you came up with to help people come to Jesus Christ, if we're talking about Christianity right now, and live better lives? What's that innovation all about, Johan?
Well, we were on our knees in prayer because here you had a very, very difficult situation. People couldn't really go in there to Mozambique or to Rhodesia at that stage, which later became Zimbabwe, and go and work there. You stand out. You're totally conspicuous. And so from 2 Timothy 2, verse 2, we received our calling, and the essential bit of 2 Timothy 2, verse 2 is, find faithful men, teach them to teach others. So the whole concept of what we started out with back in 1981 to actually start the training was to step into a situation where we found local people, local men who were believers, and then to get them into a position so that they could actually lead their own people. You see, the point here is that if you work with indigenous people and you empower, you equip, empower, and engage local people, you don't have the years of going in and learning and being exposed to a culture that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole point here the way that we did it was we went and found local men, people of influence, spent some time with them, perhaps outside of their own country, and then because they are the people that were connected and knew where the churches were, and that way we were able to identify strong believers inside who were not pastors and who did not have the education to lead their church groups. And the whole idea just came from find faithful men, teach them so that they can teach others. The multiplication built into 2 Timothy 2, verse 2, is Paul writing to Timothy, find faithful men, teach them to teach others. There are 4 generations of disciples that he speaks of. And that multiplication is what we use.
Isn't that great? You know, I'm going to make a quick reflection here, Johan. I think you're going to be on my page. I'm on your page. I think we'll agree, and my listeners will agree with this too. What Johan is talking about, you can encapsulate, this goes out to you, my listening audience, in the word friendship. He's talking about local people helping local people. Now, we know, everybody's a local person. You were born someplace. You, my listening audience, wherever you're living right now, most likely in the United States, if you're living in Africa, this is worldwide broadcast, you're local. And you like the people around you. You trust the people around you. See, trust is a big word here. And if now we have a mission to help you, well, what better way to help you than through your neighbor? You know, hey, we love that. And it's part of the golden rule there. Neighbors, that's a real Christian way of seeing it. Neighbors helping neighbors. So if we train some of your neighbors to help you in the most advantageous way, the very best way, it's going to help you better because you'll say, I know you. I accept you. I'll let you come into my life. I trust you. And that way, we're not imposing. We are now creating a nexus. We're creating friendships. And friends now can create that beautiful love that we need in our lives to really encapsulate that higher force, that power that got us here in the first place. With Christians, hey, Jesus Christ. And so Jesus works through friendship, works through neighborhoods, and involvement of people with people that way. We love that. Am I on the right track there, Johan?
Absolutely. You've nailed it in the sense that you overcome in doing it this way, you overcome two of the major problems. One, the language barrier, and number two, the cultural acceptance barrier. Mm-hmm. Those are the two biggest barriers in getting into a foreign culture, a foreign land, and getting access to people. And by using local people that you train, where you train one person, or as we do, we go in and get a group of people from a whole district that we organize through local people, and then we go in, we do the training in a confident or a closed conference, mm-hmm. and then they go out to their own people who, exactly right, like you said, who trust them, where they have open access to those people's hearts, and the effectiveness of this is absolutely incredible. Now, the traditional missionaries have done a great job in going there and getting people to understand Christianity, to understand the Bible, but they've done an absolutely lousy job of putting those people into ministry. Your missionary comes in and continues to hold the position, I know how to do it, I'll show you, instead of saying, I've taught you, now you go and do it. Mm-hmm. That's the key to our success. Our success is we do not have any single church anywhere in the world that belongs to us. We work through local people, and we put our shoulder under their burden, train them, give them some curriculum, help them with Bibles. Just for one piece of statistic, mm-hmm. there are 200 million Christians on the African continent who do not have access to a Bible.
You know, this is making so much sense, Johan, and I'm going to put it in another Christian term here, another Christian way that I know you're going to grab onto as well. Your method is very much like Jesus when, feeding people. Give a man a fish and, he eats for a day. But teach a man to fish. He eats for the rest of his life. And also his family, too. You're teaching people the tools that way. You're not just going in there and imposing it, and you're in and out, and then after you leave, they say, what did he say? How do we do this? You're teaching them through their neighbors. That's another thing that you're doing that is just so beautiful in your ministry. Is that right?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah,
now,
love that.
You've again nailed it.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. Our model for this training method that we use is the Lord Jesus himself. You see, if we read the scriptures, he had 12 disciples. But 80% of his time, or around about 80% of his time, was spent where he poured himself into Peter, James, and John. Mm-hmm. He took them to the Mount of Transfiguration. He took them to the raising of Jairus' daughter. He took them to Gethsemane. Now, automatically the question comes up, whose job was it to tell the other 9? It was the job of Peter, James, and John. Mm-hmm. They were witnesses. Now comes the word witnesses. They were witnesses of what happened in those places, and they came back and taught the other 9. How did they do that? If each one of them had three apprentices that are called disciples that they were responsible for, then you'd end up with Peter, James, and John, and if they each had 3, you go from 3 to 12, if they were the other 9.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is that if you take this as a mathematical progression, and you go the 4 generations that I showed you in 2 Timothy 2, verse 2, from Paul, Timothy, faithful men, and others, and you apply this 3 principle to it, then it's a multiplication that goes from 3 to 12,
yeah,
which is 9. And if each one of the 9 inside there have 3, then you add another 27.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take the 4th generation, the 27 each having 3, then it's 81. And do you know what the strange calculation is that you come to?
What is that?
If you take 3 plus 9 plus 27 plus 81, it totals 120.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Lord Jesus taught for 3.5 years here on earth. When he was taken up into heaven, the Bible records that all the disciples were together in one place. How many were there? There were 120.
Look at that.
Look at that. In other words, did the Lord Jesus give us the gospel, his gospel? These are the values that I have brought with me. You have heard it say in the old law, an eye for an eye. But I tell you, so he brings in the entire new value system. So if we can go and we can give one person in a congregation, let's just say we share it with a pastor, and he grabs somewhere between 3 and 5 of his leaders, and he teaches them the principles of disciple making, not discipleship,
mm-hmm.
of disciple making, because I don't become a disciple maker if I have a disciple. I become a disciple maker when my disciple has a disciple.
Well, there you go. Look at that. And it's exponential, and we love that. And you about said it all here in such a wonderful, concise way here in this Spotlight interview. Johan Gous, and I want you to order his book, people, Witnesses Wanted, Living an Unexpected Adventurous Life. It's on Amazon, and you can also go to his website, order it that way, and get involved in the fascinating world of Johan through his website, hbmin.org, and that spells out HBMIN.org. This has been marvelous, Johan. I wish we had more time for this Spotlight interview because you're into such adventurous and loving work, but I think we've really nailed it here, even in this short period of time. You like it?
I do.
There you go.
I love it.